Good day, my name is Angelo, and this is Channel Up, where we give you updates on true crime, mystery, and lifestyle. Thanks for joining us. Now, on this 22nd day of June 2023, the U.S. Department of Justice (DOJ) announced the extradition of four Nigerian nationals, namely Akinola Tello, Olayemi Adafin, Olakunle Oyebanjo, and Kazim Olarewaju Rusewe from the United Kingdom and Sweden respectively to face charges in the Middle District of Florida. The defendants were accused of conspiracy to commit wire fraud, I will explain that later, identity theft, and theft of public money through a sophisticated cyber-enabled tax fraud scheme. As of April 2025, their trials remain ongoing, drawing significant attention due to the transnational nature of the crimes and the methods they employed to perpetrate these crimes. This case highlights the growing trend of cyber criminal networks exploiting global digital infrastructure to defraud governments and individuals alike. Before going further, I would love to look at the mode of arrest and the process of extradition. That is the most important thing at this point. Now, the defendants were arrested in late 2022. Taylor, Adafin, and Runsewe were arrested on November 30th, and Oyebanjo was arrested on December 2nd. Taylor, Adafin, and Oyebanjo were apprehended in London, UK, while Runsewe was arrested in Malmo, Sweden, following coordinated efforts between US and foreign law enforcement agencies. The next point I'm going to be talking to you about is the extradition, all right? I will just briefly talk about the extradition process, and then I will touch a part of the case that seems crucial to me and to all of us. The extradition process, completed by mid-2023, showed the international cooperation required to combat cybercrime. Foreign authorities also conducted searches of the residences of Taylor and Runsewe, seizing evidence that were linked to the fraud. The case goes further to demonstrate the increasing reliance on cross-border legal mechanisms to hold cyber criminals accountable for what they've done. Right. So this is the overview of the extradition and the arrest. All right. Now I would look at the charges and maybe the potential penalties, because as at April this year, the case is still ongoing. Now, the indictment unsealed in the Middle District of Florida detailed multiple charges, including wire fraud conspiracy, filing false claims with the US government, and then theft of public money and aggravated identity theft. Yes, if convicted, each defendant faces up to 20 years in federal prison for the wire fraud conspiracy alone, with additional penalties for other counts that I have mentioned already. The severity of the charges reflects the substantial financial harm caused by the scheme, which targeted US taxpayers and government funds. The indictment also included provisions of asset forfeiture and then targeting proceeds traceable to the crimes. So what was the strategy used by these four Nigerians? What were the mechanisms that they used to perpetrate this fraud scheme? Let us have a look. According to court documents, Taylor, Runsewe, and others gained unauthorized access to US businesses, computer servers, going further to steal personally identifiable information called the PII of American residents. Now, this data was then used to file fraudulent IRS form. That is the form called the 1040 tax returns, claiming illegitimate refunds. Adafin, Oyebanjo, and another co-conspirator named Ogunlana Oluwarotimi of Texas facilitated the collection of fraud proceeds through prepaid debit cards and controlled bank accounts. The scheme's sophistication and authenticity lay in its use of compromised servers and the laundering of funds through multiple channels, making detection and prosecution more challenging and very, very hard for authorities. All right. Now, there is this strategy they used that was called the use of the ex-dedic marketplace. That's the use of the dark web to launder funds. All right. Now, a key component of the case was the defendant's use of the uded marketplace. That is a now defunct platform that sold access to hacked servers and stolen PII. All right. Now, Taylor and Rousseau allegedly exploited this marketplace to infiltrate US business networks, going further to show the role of illicit online markets in enabling cybercrime in the country. Now, the uded marketplace was shut down in a global operation led by the IRSCI, the FBI, and the US Attorney's Office for the Middle District of Florida. But the legacy of this dark web marketplace persists in similar platforms that continue to operate. This aspect of the case shows the ongoing challenge of dismantling cybercriminal ecosystems and habitats. Okay, that is that. Let's all see what the law enforcement agencies did, their collaboration and all. The investigation involved a coalition or a conglomeration of agencies, including the IRS Cyber Crimes Unit, the FBI Tampa, Homeland Security Investigations HSI, and international partners such as the UK's National Crime Agency and the Sweden's Economic Crime Authority. Okay. Now, the successful extradition and prosecution of the defendants relied solely on these multinational efforts, all right, illustrating the necessity of global cooperation in addressing cyber-enabled fraud. The case also highlights the evolving strategies or the evolution of strategies of law enforcement agencies to track and apprehend suspects operating across jurisdictions, come what may. Now, what would be the impact of this crime on its victims and the US taxpayer system? All right. Now, the scheme defrauded the US government of significant sums of money, though the exact amount was not detailed in the investigation and in the indictments, although the officers and the authorities know this. By filing false tax returns, the defendants diverted public funds intended for legitimate taxpayers, going further to undermine trust in the IRS and the financial systems. The case has prompted calls for enhanced cybersecurity measures, with tax preparation being the main reason why people are calling for minimum tax preparation as a result of this crime. Now, for those of you who don't know what the IRS means, it's the Inland Revenue Service. All right. So when you hear IRS during the course of my update, it means Inland Revenue Service. So as I was saying before I digressed, this particular crime has called for public outcry for firms and government agencies to use this tech savvy method to prevent similar breaches in the near future. Now, victims of such fraud often face lengthy processes to reclaim their identities and refunds, adding to the societal cost of these crimes. All right, that is that. Now, there is something very important I want to bring to your notice. Why has this case gained attention this year, April 2025? Something that happened 2 years ago, 2 years ago. Now, as of April this year, the ongoing trials have brought renewed scrutiny to the case for several reasons. First of all, the protracted legal proceedings show the complexities of prosecuting transnational cybercrime, particularly when defendants challenge extradition or evidence. Secondly, the case coincides with a kind of broader crackdown on business email compromise called BEC and tax fraud schemes, as seen in other recent extraditions of Nigerian nationals. Thirdly, the use of malware and dark web marketplaces like uded remains a pressing concern for cybersecurity and its experts, making this case a relevant example of contemporary threats and tech-inclined crimes. All right. So let's compare what they have done to other high-profile cybercrime cases you've heard from me and other people who give you updates or other platforms. Now, the defendants have these methods, and their methods bear similarities to other recent cases, such as the extradition of one Matthew Akonde, a Nigerian national that was charged with hacking tax preparation firms to file fraudulent returns. Now, like the victims in this particular case, or like the culprits in this case, talking about Taylor and Runsewe, Akonde used the phishing style of attacks and malware to steal the PII, demonstrating a recurring pattern among cyber criminal networks. These parallels suggest a systemic issue within certain transnational crime groups, particularly those originating in Nigeria and other countries, but operating globally. The increasing frequency of such cases has led to a kind of heightened enforcement efforts by US and international agencies. What would be the implications and what would be the ethical implications of this, or the legal implications of this? The case raises important questions about jurisdiction, extradition, and the balance between punitive measures and rehabilitation for cyber criminals. While the US justice system seeks to impose significant penalties on these people, some argue that addressing the root causes of cybercrime, such as economic disparities and discrepancies and lack of opportunities in countries like those in Africa, is equally very, very critical. The defendants' backgrounds and motivations, though not extensively detailed in court, and their documents may influence public perception of the case as it progresses. Now, having seen the dimensions of this fraud scheme, there is a tech tool that is of the essence in this kind of cases, which was noticed by authorities. This is the inculcation of AI into modern tax fraud schemes. Now listen, the case of Akinola Taylor, Olayemi Adafin, Olakunle Oyebanjo, and Kazim Runsewe shows a broader trend in cybercrime. How? The increasing use of artificial intelligence known as AI to automate and refine fraudulent activities is supposed to be studied. AI enables criminals to generate convincing forgeries of tax documents such as the W2S documents, making it harder for traditional IRS verification systems to detect fraud. The IRS has reported over $21.1 billion in fraud losses over the past 2 years. Much of it links to AI-enhanced schemes. This technological arms race between fraudsters and law enforcement shows the need for advanced countermeasures, such as cryptographic verification, I would say. Then that should be for tax documents, which could render AI-generated forgeries useless by a kind of, let me say, embedding unforgeable digital signatures, signatures that cannot be replicated. Now, this is very, very important, The extradition of the 4 Nigerian nationals from the UK and Sweden, respectively, demonstrates the transnational dimension of cyber-enabled tax fraud. Criminal networks often operate across borders, leveraging differences in legal systems and slower international cooperation to evade detection. For instance, the ex-Dedic marketplace used by Taylor and Runsewe was a global platform that facilitated the sale of hacked servers and stolen data until it shut down in early 2019. Despite such takedowns, similar dark web markets have gone further to persist, going further to enable fraudsters to gain access, or to access compromised data with relative ease. This globalized crime model necessitates stronger international collaboration, including what I would call real-time data sharing between tax authorities and law enforcement agencies. So since the emergence of AI, especially since its trend in 2025, there has been a sort of variety of AI use that I would call AI voice cloning and deepfake scams. Now, the involvement of these in cybercrimes cannot be underestimated. As of April 2025, new fraud tactics are emerging gradually, including AI-generated voice calls mimicking IRS agents and deepfake videos impersonating tax professionals. These scams exploit the public's familiarity with digital communication, making it harder to distinguish legitimate contacts from fraudulent ones. Now, the IRS, that's the Inland Revenue Service, has reiterated that It never initiates contact via phone, email, or social media to demand payments or sensitive information. Yet, these scams continue to proliferate due to their sophistication and their style. Taxpayers are advised to verify unexpected communications directly through official IRS channels and to use what we call the Identity Protection Pins, the IPP, to prevent unauthorized filings. All right. Now, the Inland Revenue Service have a kind of evolving response to this, and I will take it directly from their website. To combat these threats, the IRS is overhauling its technology, including AI-driven fraud detection systems and partnerships with financial institutions to trace illicit transactions rather. However, critics argue that these measures remain reactive rather than preventive. A more effective approach, as proposed by cybersecurity experts, would be the widespread adoption of cryptographic document verification. This will go further to make tax forms tamper-proof from the outset. Until such systems are implemented, the burden of prevention falls heavily on individuals and businesses to adopt stringent cybersecurity practices. All right. So, in conclusion, which is my opinion, directly just my opinion, I will call this conclusion a kind of, for me, a call for systemic reforms, because without systemic reforms, we are nowhere. The case of Taylor, Adafin, Oyebanjo, and Runsewe is a stark reminder of the vulnerabilities in our tax system. While their extradition and prosecution may mark a victory for the law enforcement and other authorities, the broader issue remains unsolved and unresolved. Cyber-enabled tax fraud is evolving faster than defensive measures can keep up. In my own view, the solution lies in a dual approach. Number one, my solution: technological innovation, such as mandatory cryptographic signing of tax documents. And number two, global policy coordination, that is, to disrupt the infrastructure that enables these crimes. Now, relying solely on punitive measures after the fact is very, very insufficient. All right. Proactive prevention through secure systems design is essential as AI continues to lower the barrier to entry for fraudsters. Now, governments must prioritize investment in next generation verification tools, not just to protect revenue, but to maintain public trust in the tax system itself. Thank you for staying this far. If you enjoyed our updates, why not like our videos, share them, drop comments for us in the comment section, and then if you're watching me for the first time, tap the subscribe button or tap the notification bell so that you won't be left behind when I drop a new update. Wouldn't you love that? See you next time. Bye.